hell do you mean my beard isn't thick enough? What? You want me to wear a prosthetic beard?
Chapter 4, Get Your Women Naked and Other Invaluable Casting Tips.
Listen, I can't act if I feel like I have someone else's pubes glued to my face.
Chapter 5, Pre-Production, the key to your future therapy.
Listen, I'm gonna have to call you back. I've got a bone to pick with this guy. Hey! Aren't you that guy who...
These hallways curve back around.
Don't try to run away from me. You and I have something we need to talk about.
Yes, so I've inferred.
And I just have to say, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you threaten the good people of Serbia for making such a courageous and witty political satire as a Serbian film?
Well, I guess I got carried away there.
And what's more, I demand an apology.
I'm sorry I tried to attack Serbia.
No, not for that. For bashing Jerry.
What?
I know that it's a difficult film to read, but Jerry moved me to tears with its vision of two guys walking through a desert for 90 minutes. It is a piece of such depth and humor that deserves none of your petty, baseless slander.
Well, it's still fairly derivative of Tarkovsky, but still.
Also, you're a pussy for taking down that Sasha Grey video.
Look, as flattered as I am that you're familiar enough with my work to hate it, frankly, I don't want to be seen with you.
What?
Nothing personal.
What the hell? Am I not pretentious enough for you?
Well, no, that's a thing. You're plenty pretentious. And bearded. And dark-haired. And suited. And you're known for having a very lovely voice.
Ew, look, if this is about what I think it's about...
Frankly, it is. And the more distance between us, the better.
Oh, come off it. We're nothing alike. Your suit is... green.
Dankeschön.
Hey, you two. Everyone loves crossovers and they all want you to do one together.
Who the hell is they?
And how are we defining everyone?
I don't know, everyone. They do something together. Something pornographic and pretentious. So, here. Do it. You crazy kids knock yourselves out. Oh, fuck.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me.
Tromeo and Juliet? Tromeo and Juliet? You're telling me that the people who crapped out Curse of the Cannibal Confederates made a Shakespeare adaptation because of a really stupid pun?
What he said.
As if Shakespeare hasn't been mishandled enough, you're going to wrestle the greatest love story of all time into a giant mashup of gore and tits?
What he said.
For those of you fortunate enough to have never watched the breed of film that I am often subjected to, Troma Entertainment is an exploitation movie company that's stayed afloat since 1974.
By making their films cheaper than oxygen.
Don't interrupt me, newbie. This literary corpse desecration was the result of a script by Slither's James Gunn, with a revision by director and Troma founder Lloyd Kaufman. Tromeo was released in 1996 to generally favorable, if not tolerant, reviews. Oddly enough, that was the same year we were graced with Kenneth Branagh's epic version of Hamlet. I can only wonder what Kenneth Branagh had to say about this far lesser Shakespeare adaptation.
Actually, you don't have to wonder.
Body-piercing, kinky sex, dismemberment, the things that made Shakespeare great. Well, they have a point. I'll be interested to see that. And manic rock and roll with Motorhead and arse ponies. So maybe I can get arse ponies to do the soundtrack for Hamlet.
Good find. The film starts with a moving public domain song, and they killed Sandy Cheeks.
Two households, different as dried plums and pears, in fair Manhattan, where we lay our scene.
Wait, that's Lemmy from Motorhead. Oh, I'm sorry. Lemmy, House of Motorhead.
I think we're to assume that in this universe, metal bands each have their own fiefdoms.
The cast is introduced to us in 70s sitcom style, giving us their names and their relations.
Well, actually, it's a visualization of how folios traditionally started with the list of the dramatic...
I was joking! You gonna be this pedantic about Shakespeare through this whole thing?
It's kind of my shtick.
Alright. Just get it all out of your system. Contextualize this schlocky trauma film, Bard Boy.
Oh, quite happily.
After the great success of Kenneth Branagh's 1989 Henry V, and the popularity of the Franco Zeffirelli Mel Gibson Hamlet, the 1990s saw a big wave of hip, middle-brow adaptations of the Bard's plays, often taking them into new and exciting territory. There was Henry IV with Rent Boys, a fascist Richard III, Taming of the Shrew in high school, Hamlet with lions, Romeo and Juliet with seizures, all part of the movement to cash in and popularize the Stratfordians' plays. Mr. Kaufman's Tromeo can be seen as the Grindhouse's response to mainstream Hollywood's literary ambitions.
And in conclusion, Tromeo and Juliet is yet another attempt by the masses to turn Shakespeare into... Shakespeare.
And they do so by changing everyone's names to make them sound less Elizabethan. Let's see, Monty Q, Cappy Capulet, Tyrone, Murray, Ness. Do nurses not exist in this universe?
I'm just struggling to figure out why we needed a shot of a guy slowly ungluing rubber ears from a guy's head. Good to see Ego Raptor getting work.
Good to see insert name of generically beautiful blonde actress here getting work.
We just saw the death of a live animal on screen, didn't we?
We have just witnessed mouse snuff.
But certainly not wasting any time vandalizing a classic tragedy.
Hey look, the credits are doing just that.
Opening in a club, we follow a gentleman who resembles a meerkat whose fur got burned off. The character's name is Sammy, which likely makes him the equivalent of Samson, the Capulet servant who bites his thumb at people.
Oh, come on, Georgie. Maybe you'll get lucky, you know what I mean?
I'm your sister. You're not supposed to do that. Not to me.
But hey, you know the way the world is now, we've got gangbangers, we've got perverts, we've got anorexia. Everything's in style. If we just throw a little incest into the mix, pretty soon the world will be like one great big house.
Yeah, I'm sure, Sammy. Me, you, and our mutant inbred children.
The hell? This movie just gonna throw incest in our faces?
How do you throw incest?
Don't deconstruct my phrasing. Okay, tits. Tits are much easier to throw in people's faces.
Ah, you see, the auteur realized that this scene would otherwise be a dull bit of exposition, so he decorated the frame with a bit of exoticism.
A live nipple piercing is exotic, I'll give you that.
Also, you'll notice that the cues in general have a certain strange way of saying things.
Bad monkey.
Even the other actor was confused by that line.
Speaking of confusing, poof! They're all at the club now.
I'm assuming this counts as thumb biting.
How in the hell else can you turn thumb biting into an insult?
I don't know.
Antiquated and insulting aside, you have to admire the way they modernized the Elizabethan dialogue.
No, fuck you! No, seriously, Sandy, fuck you! I said it first!
Poetry.
And it leads into a fight scene so shocking, it causes the director himself to spit take.
Oh, fingers. I love fingers. Give me fingers.
Odd thing to say when you're doing the act.
Foreshadowing! As if this film was written right after the writer learned what foreshadowing was, but before he learned subtlety.
That's it, baby. Only you could do it, baby. Tromeo sucks at it.
This is Rosalind, Romeo's previous girlfriend, given a very Troma makeover. The same Troma makeover given to Benvolio and Mercutio.
Not fucking die! You're an asshole!
If you'll recall from 9th grade English, Mercutio was a neutral party who looked down on the feud between Montagues and Capulets, and Benvolio always struggled to keep the peace.
Really? I'm sure the Bard had always intended them to be Montague trolls.
Though I do like how they sneaked in this edition of Yale Shakespeare in Juliet's room. It gives the illusion that someone in this film actually read it. Clearly, they just read the cliff notes and figured out which characters they could make sexy.
I see. Juliet's nurse is apparently Liz Solander. Meanwhile, Tromeo drowns himself in loneliness with, what the hell, it too blowjob? The merchant of penis, as you lick it, much to do about humping?
Please, no titties Andronicus? No glory hole anus? No A Midsummer Night's Cream?
That one actually exists.
If you like eating shit and drinking piss,
Then buy the Pasolini-themed expansion pack.
It's worse. Somewhere along the line, they decided that true love was a fetish.
you chose true love.
Would you like to get married? Married. Then you could see my bosom.
Well, if that's as kinky as these two carrots get, then... Oh, come on! Really? You're gonna spice up this Shakespeare adaptation with girl-on-girl action?
Well, in the play, the nurse was implied to be a wet nurse, one who suckles the child when the mother could not.
So you're telling me that in the canon of the play, Juliet sucked on this character's tit?
I'm sure that was their justification, too.
And one of the more ingenious additions to this adaptation is a backstory for the feud.
Far from being an ancient grudge brought to new mutiny, this feud started when Capulet stole Monty's wife and company. That company? Porn!
They catered to the art crowd. French babes, soft focus, lots of sheer curtains, classy stuff.
And you should see the trash that Silky puts out now. The worst motherfucking films in the world.
Oh my, he is a monster.
He destroyed the artworks of a budding young auteur.
I was gonna say that.
Were you? I thought it would be something like more like I would say.
Oh, of course, because it's pretentious and condescending. I never do that.
And what, you have a monopoly on condescension?
I invented being condescending on the internet.
I knew it would come to this. I knew it! You think I'm useless, don't you?
Look, you little pissant. You want to make yourself useful? Why don't you interpret this dream sequence that Juliet has?
Alright, I will. Wild guess. I think she's afraid of men.
Thank you. That was very insightful.
Pubescent copulators. Leaving your sex toys all over your room.
That's a curling iron.
He knows less about women's sex lives than Rush Limbaugh.
Ooh, topical.
And who are you?
Daddy's little Crenshaw melon.
Who?
Daddy's little Crenshaw melon.
The hell? Did James Gunn just pick the funniest sounding fruit he could think of?
It's an incestuous subtext.
What? Why are you reading incest into this? This is Shakespeare, not Greek tragedy.
I just Google image searched Crenshaw melon. Look at how it's shaped.
Yikes. And on top of being subconsciously attracted to his daughter, he's also guilty of another great sin. Pretension.
You villainous, abominable kidnapper of youth! Henry IV, Act 2, Scene 4.
Your jest will savour but of shallow wit, when thousands groan more than did laugh at it. Henry V, Act 1, Scene 2.
Good for you.
Sammy gets killed here, and it's barely as moving as when the mouse died.
Act 2, the ball and Tromeo's agony of bliss. His balls be blue, young men, pray think on this.
His balls be blue?
Ignore it.
Okay. They're preparing for the Capulet ball, and we're introduced to Juliet's husband-to-be. Paris. London.
Get it? Paris? London? See? They did read the play.
My fears about their ability to get the play right are completely assuaged.
I finally figured out something to do with those pig's ears. It's new, and it's oh so delicioso.
London is... I don't know how to put it into words yet, but I assume two of those words will be death and mask.
It's raisin loaf. It's like olive loaf, but it's not. It's raisin loaf. Why? Because there are raisins in it.
For historical context, keep in mind that this movie was made at a time when Jim Carrey was considered funny.
Later at the Capulet's ball, populated with... Huh? Who the hell are they dressed as? What kind of dumpster did they drag these get-ups from?
What?
As the partiers dance about in costumes that are clearly Troma characters, Murray arrives dressed as the title character from Day of the Tentacle. Tromeo wears a cow costume, which makes cowbell sounds, despite not having cowbells on it. And then Tromeo gets a cartoon erection.
Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright.
Oh, now they start quoting the actual play.
Oh, you don't find the modern banter scintillating or clever?
My little head cheese.
How many vaguely comical foodstuffs can Juliet get compared to in one movie?
Oh, Juliet, my precious toad in the hole.
Who are you, cow?
My name is Tromeo.
Why yes, do tell her your real name within earshot of a man who has the ear of your mortal enemy.
And it works. There's irony for you, a butcher getting cuckolded by cattle.
Two blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with the tender kiss.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much.
Ah, the bard. Nice of them to suddenly remember that this is a Shakespeare adaptation. Let's see if they can remember another line.
My only love, sprung from my only hate.
Act 3, love and the glass box revealed.
Wait, is that love in the glass box or love and the glass box?
Who fucking cares?
I'm sorry, it's just that Lemmy is a bit inarticulate.
Of all the things to complain about in this movie, you're picking on how the narrator slurs his words.
Well, I just don't think that the gentleman from Motorhead is necessarily the best chorus for this film.
Look, you want to be useful or not.
We're coming up on a dream sequence. You want to be a snob? Interpret this.
Well, I don't want to be a snob, per se.
Just do it, mini-me.
Okay. Tromeo wakes her up crouching like Edward Cullen. Something about bathing in her skin, toe sucking, stuff that sounds like Shakespeare but isn't. Lumpy belly, Troll 2 reference, gives birth to rats.
Ooh, my. An attempt at surrealism? I like this movie now.
Clearly this film is a modernist take on Elizabethan... Wait, Capulet's back?
You horny little cow. Probably dreaming of getting fucked in the ass.
What the fuck? He drags her to a back room, locks her in a glass cage, shackles her, rubs his man tits, makes that fucking face.
Is this exploitation movie getting exploitive? I dislike this movie now.
Your criteria for quality are very specific.
What light from yonder plexiglass breaks? It is a right-angled cosmos. And Juliet is its son.
The correct first response is, "Oh, sweet Jesus, who locked my girlfriend in a glass cage?"
See how she leans her cheek upon her hand? Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek.
How dare this hack sully one of the bar's most beautiful lines with such a vulgar... The hell's wrong with you?
I thought it was kind of clever.
It's like I don't even know you.
But your father...
He never comes back until after the Regis and Kathy Lee show. And this room was soundproofed when I was 8. He didn't want the neighbors to hear me scream.
Jesus!
Haha, back to being offended, I see.
That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet.
Let's go. Tonight. Come with me.
Okay, they're clearly cutting and pasting the text where they see fit. It's like a middle school essay written by a guy who read the play's wiki quote entry.
Ah, but my boy, the director is clearly making the necessary cuts to the script in order to make room for the more dramatically necessary action.
Like?
Fucking!
Oh yes, this is key information. The movie would just fall apart without it.
Of course! Without this shot, we wouldn't know that this actress possessed breasts.
This scene is vital!
After the lovers, cross each other's stars, they wake up to the sound of the Regis and Kathy Lee show.
Which is impressive, since we already know that this room is soundproof.
Oh, fine.
You look like you've seen a subhumanoid.
2 sentences that do not go well together.
Speaking of 2 things that don't go well together...
This actor and fucking Shakespeare.
Wait, I got it. He looks like a sun-bleached, dead turtle.
Or maybe he was cast as London Arbuckle due to his resemblance to Odie Arbuckle.
But I can't marry you.
What?
Scratch that. He was cast because of his ability to make his face nearly fall off.
Well mugged, London.
Meanwhile, Father Kevin James is asked to marry the 2 of them.
Tonight?
And the sound effects agree.
And as we continue to meander through the dull bits, we're treated, and I use the word treated loosely, to Juliet masturbating while calling a phone sex line, during which she...
Ah! I'm fucking fair, son. That's right. We're having major sex.
Christ! He looks like you if you swallowed me.
Thank you.
This scene all the better since Juliet only calls the line because Tromeo is playing phone tag with her. He calls her right afterward, with this plot point never coming up again, making the fat phone sex guy completely pointless.
Like your little jab at me just there.
Oh, sack up. They get married and hey, here's something Shakespeare couldn't pull off on stage, a montage.
Cute. Like Annie Hall, but with tattoos.
But without Marshall McLuhan.
But still retaining the people locked in glass cages.
What?
It's actually been a little while since I've seen Annie Hall.
Act 4. Kill, Tromeo, kill and be resolved.
Moving on, as London cries into a pig's corpse and stabs himself.
Unfortunately not taking himself out of the movie for good.
R. Not Tybalt plots to take out the Q's with a club that looks like Hitler. I wonder if he's named it Der Fuhrer's face.
A word for Tyrone Capulet.
Will you take this, Tyrone?
Boofball. Dick brain? Peon. Freak. Cocksucker. Loser, rat, cat, geek. Doofus, anus, fruitcake, lunk. Fiddlefucker, dweeb, phoebe. Cunt.
I should use this soliloquy the next time I audition at the Folger.
As if you could act.
I've trod the boards, yeah.
You didn't even memorize your lines.
I have no idea what you mean.
Get him! We just wanted to track down Tromeo, okay?
Hey, like if we knew, we'd tell you anyway, huh?
If I had to guess, it wouldn't be so tough.
I'd say he was in your cousin's mom.
Wait, hold it. Did Murray just end his speech with 2 lines of rhyming couplets? Was that technically a sonnet?
And of course, Tybalt kills a dummy that looks like Mercutio. Ironic, using a Hitler club to kill a blonde, blue-eyed Aryan.
Ah yes, the death of poor Mercutio, a plague
Actually, can we go back and hear his speech again? I need to count the meter.
Not now. We need to see how Romeo kills Tybalt in this version.
Die! Happens to everyone sooner or later.
Hope he's left hand. No, Tromeo, you fucking bastard! Cry havoc! Found a peanut just now. Just now I found a peanut just now. I cracked it open, cracked it.
So, to recap...
Tyrone is thrown into the path of an oncoming car. We learn that he's probably filled with mozzarella. Tyrone gets beheaded by the ramp of a moving van. For no reason, someone shouts, "Cry havoc," as if his beheading was the signal to lay siege to Harfleur or something. The head lands on the hood of a car family who just discovered Charlie Brown, causing them to hit a ramp and flip over.
All that for a really convoluted finale. I really hope trashing that car was worth it.
Actually, it was. That is the car that was trashed in Sergeant Kabuki Man, and it was trashed again in Terror Firmer and Citizen Toxie.
How do you know so much about Tromeo movies? I think you hated this sort of thing.
So, Tromeo is on the run. Juliet pleads to Father Kevin James to help them out of their situation, so he mentions an opium lord named Fu Chang.
I'm dreading the soon-to-come racism.
Stay strong. We have lazier and more offensive jokes to get through.
It's its own reward, dear. I too know what it's like to care for somebody.
And of course it cuts to him frolicking with a small boy. Of course it does.
In other comedy news, oh man, lawyers sure do suck, am I right?
Of course, those jokes are still preferable to the racist joke that is Fu Chang. No doubt some buck-toothed squinting caricature ripped from a 40s Bugs Bunny cartoon. Wait, that's him?
I'm Fu Chang. Get over it, girl.
So Fu Chang is a Rastafarian stereotype rather than a Chinese stereotype.
So it's bait and switch racism, huh? I see what game they're playing at here.
Act 5, Juliet made over.
Juliet, having gotten a potion, takes it before her wedding, causing her to seemingly die.
You didn't think a potion could do what he claimed. Now did you, Juliet?
Or start hallucinating that every character that's died in the movie so far is haunting her. That works too. It's like if Rosencrantz and Guildenstern got a chance to tell Hamlet off to his face.
And I'm reminded of how much I'd rather watch Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Ugh. Roger Ebert gave that 0 stars. Therefore, I hate it.
What?
Kick it, fellas! Shall we gather at the river?
I question the logic of using this song as their leitmotif.
It's in the public domain, so why not? And even if the song doesn't make sense, at least it speeds up the potion's transformational powers.
Transform? No, it's supposed to make her appear dead.
Keep watching.
You'll find that after you marry, she'll become a docile little bovine.
Heed the unsubtle foreshadowing.
What do you mean? Oh.
Yep.
Oh, true apothecary, thy drugs are fucking moronic.
Ignoring how little sense this potion makes, wouldn't London's immediate reaction be to ground her up into patties?
They're really laying on the cow motif, aren't they?
Cow motif?
I was having myself a dream about these cows.
I lived on a farm, I'd fuck you.
A cow?
You horny little cow.
Look at all the cows.
Dear God, they've been setting this up for the entire movie!
After London finally leaps to his death, Capulet, tenderizes the beef. But hold it, if she doesn't pretend to die, then how will this lead to the misunderstanding that leads to the lovers' tragic deaths?
Well, clearly it doesn't. It just leads to Capulet getting beat up with tampons and hair curlers and, well, feminine stuff. See? It's a feminist movie!
Don't give this movie credit, please. Ah! And he's beaten over the head with a copy of Shakespeare.
It's just like what? Oh, sorry. You go. I feel weird. All right. Together. All right. 3, 2, 1. It's just like watching this movie.
Cornering the two of them in the room with the glass cage, Capulet gets ready to...
Whoa, no, hold it. No. You're kidding me.
I'm not Daddy's little Crenshaw melon any longer.
You're kidding me.
Oh, sweetie.
Romeo and Juliet live?
You alright?
Yeah, I need a minute. One second. You rant for me.
Okay.
How do you make a Romeo and Juliet adaptation where Romeo and Juliet fucking live? You might as well end Hamlet with a dance party. You might as well end A Midsummer Night's Dream with the fairies going to the wedding and eating everybody.
Oh, you're fine. Keep going.
How do you so completely miss the point of the original that you make the main conflict fucking useless?
Their main enemies are dead, the feud is over, and they're fucking alive! There is no reason they can't be together happily ever after.
Tromeo! Your father and I, we need to tell you some things.
What?
It all started when I was married to your dad.
And if you want to know the truth, this baby don't belong to you. These days they can prove it in a lab. Cap is. You're not the real dad.
What?
And so now Monty signed like Cappy asked. Cap agreed we'd never take Tromeo back, and we would never breathe a word of the fact that I was your mom, and Cap, he was your dad.
What?
So, we're... Son, perhaps you haven't noticed, but I'm black.
I wondered about that.
So, if the two of them have the same parents, then...
Well?
Sweet are the uses of adversity, which like the toad, ugly and venomous, wears yet a precious jewel in his head.
What are you guys talking about?
Fuck it. We've come this far.
This is so messed up.
Yeah. They're clearly quoting As You Like It in this Romeo and Juliet adaptation.
You're concerned about the severed head landing on the family car, but not the incest?
To be fair, it was foreshadowed.
What?
If we just throw a little incest into the mix, pretty soon the world will be like one great big house.
Add to that, the father-daughter plot between Capulet and Juliet and the incestuous theme is pretty solid. What's more, as we move into the epilogue, we learn that one line about mutant children was also foreshadowing.
Well, there's your fucking tragedy. These children were born into an unnatural, genetically damaging marriage and then forced into horrible makeup.
So this is the dawn of the 21st age, where love ever rules and all is insane. And all of our hearts free to let all base things go, as taught by Juliet and her Tromeo.
How dare these talentless goons try to rewrite one of the most hard...
I thought it was kind of fun.
Really?
I'm going a bit out of character here, but Tromeo and Juliet is clearly meant to be an extremely loose adaptation of the play done for purposes of sex and violence. And on those notes, it succeeds. It holds up to its own insane internal logic, and overall it tells a fairly decent story. The story sure as hell isn't Romeo and Juliet, but for all of its outlandish moments, it stands on its own feet as stupid, schlocky fun, regardless of its relation to the bard.
I will stick with real Romeo and Juliet movies like Valley Girl. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hell, if they wanted to do an adaptation of 'Tis Pity She's a Whore, then just do an adaptation of 'Tis Pity She's a Whore.
The hell is 'Tis Pity She's a Whore?
It's a play. Same deal as this, Romeo and Juliet, but Romeo and Juliet are brother and sister.
Play, it's a off-Broadway thing?
Oh no, this was done in 1629, I think.
Is it any good?
Well, it ends with the Romeo character blood-soaked and carrying his sister/lover's heart on a dagger, and then throwing in a priest. It's actually attracted quite a bit of scholarship in recent years.
Wait. No.
Yes?
You're telling me that there's a 400-year-old public domain script involving incest and murder called 'Tis Pity She's a Whore, and the intellectual crowd likes it?
Yeah.
I got a camera ready. If we film this, we can corner the market on both the art house and the grindhouse.
I knew there was a reason I respected you.
Ha ha ha!